Hi everyone, it's Andrew here. So I've had a lot of conversations about naked wines over the past few months, and I thought I would go through as much of it as I can. I even met the chairman of the board, Daryl Rawlings, and talked to him about naked wines as well. I think I'm exhausted from talking about naked wines, so here is the summary of things I think are important. Now, for those unfamiliar with naked wines, it is a website to buy wine online. Now, you pay a monthly membership fee to get discounts. And online wine shopping is nothing new, but naked wines have a bit of a twist here. With the monthly membership fees they collect, they can then place pre-order contracts with the wineries. And this is really helpful for the wineries because they have a guaranteed order and they can just focus on making wine. Before naked wines, wineries had to go out and sell their wine to distributors and do the sales work themselves. And naked wines give them guaranteed orders, which helps the winemakers a lot. It is a big benefit for the winemaker, especially new and up-and-coming wineries. Now, there is a lot more to the naked wine story and how they're able to reduce their costs, but essentially, they are providing good wine at better prices for the consumer, and the winemakers are happy because they can just focus on making wine. All right, now that you're caught up, here is all the digging that I've been doing. So I went to work to figure out the free cash flow for owners. This way, I can value the business a little better. And this is how I'm calculating the fairer free cash flow figure right now.
Okay, so how I've looked at adjusting for the net income for naked wines is what I've done here is I've just gone to the income statement in TIKR, and what I'm looking at is this. Well, look, the net income at the moment, as you can see, in 2021 was negative 10 million. Now, I'm going to do some adjusting here because the reason, look, they've got revenues here of 340. And then we've got this selling, general, and admin expense. It's quite a big number. It's actually more than their gross profit. So what I've had to do is I've had to go and figure out in that selling, general, and admin expense, how much of that is in advertising to acquire new business and how much of it is just for general administration for the business. And when I have done that and I've gone to the annual statement and I've had a look, a lot of this can be adjusted out because a lot of it is for customer acquisition in the selling and general admin expense. So what I've worked out so far is that I think for this year in 2021, the net income figure really should be closer to around about positive 40 million. Now, the reason I wanted to adjust out that advertising cost is because that's essentially a growth capital expenditure. If they didn't use this money to acquire new customers, what would the business actually be worth? Because they're really acquiring new customers for the future, for next year and the year after's revenue, but doesn't really affect today. It's investment into the future, essentially. So I'm trying to figure out what the business is actually worth, like right now, without spending all their money on the future. What would it actually be worth? So that's why I went and did that, and that's why this is a really interesting number, because this company looks ugly with a negative net income number, but there's a fair bit of hidden value here because of the amount they're spending on advertising for new customers. Now I'm over in the cash flow statement, and there's another thing I just wanted to highlight for everybody is this change in inventories number. So we've got in the last 12 months, we've got a $45 million number here, expense essentially for the change in inventories. So historically it had been around about the last 3 or 4 years, it's sort of been around that 10 million number, and it's jumped up to 45. Now the reason for that is because of the shipping issues that the world is having at the moment. They wanted to make sure they had plenty of inventory to fulfill customer orders and things like that. So they've gone over and above what they normally would do. So I'm actually going to smooth this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to average out this 45 million. Say that they still bought them. It's not like they didn't buy this inventory. They did, and they're going to use it. But I'm going to spread it out over the last couple of years. So in 2020, 2021, and 2022, the number I will average out over these 3 years rather than just having a big lump sum in 2022. And lastly, there's this number here called unearned revenues. And this is, I don't really like unearned revenues. I'm going to take 25% off this number because some of these customers might actually not pay, or they drop off for whatever reason. So let's assume they're not going to get all of this money. So I'm going to take 25% off this and smooth it out over the 3 years as well. Oh, and one more thing about the change of inventory. Some of this inventory, like it's wine, so it, a lot of wine does keep really well, but some of it won't. Some of this wine won't keep. So I'm going to even take a little bit off this average. So I'm going to average this out and smooth out the numbers, but I'm also going to take a little bit off as well. So just in case they have to throw away or some of it's wasted or whatever it is. So I'm trying to be conservative and real with this number.
So I'm going to be adjusting the net income estimated at 30 million for financial year 2022. Net income adjusted to 20 million for 2021, and the net income for 20 million again in 2020 because there was a smaller ad spend in 2020. Anyway, it's my ballpark numbers I'm working with so far. Now that change in inventories number, I'm going to spread that out over 3 years plus add an extra 5 million. So that's 24 million per year. I don't like unearned revenues. Not all of that will flow through to the company, so I'm going to take 25% off that number as well. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of conservative assumptions being made here, and I think that's okay, especially when I'm just trying to get some sort of ballpark. So the new adjusted free cash flow numbers would be, for 2020, about 13 million, 2021, 39 million, and the estimated for 2022, considering just a flat year, of 33 million. So that gives me a 3-year average of free cash flow for owners of 28 million. Now with the growth rates. So active angels are growing at 23% per annum, but I think that comes down because there's going to be a difficulty in advertising return on investment with that iOS update. There's higher cost of goods sold with supply chains taking a while to come back. That could take a few years. Increase in the overall cost to the business with inflation. I don't really know whether inflation is going to happen or not. Like for the long term, I have no idea, but let's just assume it will. And also the adjustment I'm making is I'm just smoothing out that big jump from the pandemic. So when I look prior to the pandemic, they were growing active angels at 13%. So I think 15% is even on the optimistic side. Being conservative, 10% I think would be safer. Now, a company with a strong net promoter score, recurring revenues, and strong profit deserves a 15 times multiple, maybe even 18 times. Now, I think this diagram is really interesting. It's talking about the retention. So after about 4 years, the customers don't drop away anymore, and the true angels and supporters of Naked Wines stay on board. These are the customers that just love Naked Wines. So each year, the company has added more of these loyal angels. Now, turning to reinvestment rates, I'm looking at the ROI on advertising as a good way to think about it, because that is the stuff they are investing in to grow. So the payback times have been strong in the past, but I think these numbers will come down. It looks like based on those payback numbers in the annual report, something like a 15 to 30% ROI has been happening, and that's a big range. So look, I'm not going to be very accurate here, I don't think. Then looking at revenue for their mature angels is growing at 7% per annum, keeping up with inflation nicely. So that is a bonus, about 1% share dilution, which is probably just enough to ignore. So the first valuation I've done here is I've just used 5% growth rates. So I think that's being really conservative. It's probably significantly below what the company would want to be able to achieve. But I think with all of those upcoming short-term, even medium-term headwinds that they're going to face, let's just assume they can only grow at 5% from this point on. So using my discount rate that I need to achieve as a minimum, which is 22%, essentially what I'm aiming for here is somewhere around 15%, but I'm giving myself a margin of safety. The multiple is 15, like I said, and that operating cash flow minus maintenance capex, which is the owner's free cash flow for owners, that's that 28 million number. Shares outstanding, total cash, total debt. And it says that I want to buy it at around about $3.70 would be a really good price for these conservative growth rates. Let's put those growth rates up a bit higher. So what I've done here is I've put those growth rates up to 10%, still maybe conservative, but I think that's probably fair. But I've put my discount rate now up to, well, to pay the same price, that $3.70 mark, we're now getting a discount rate of 27%. So we're getting a lot bigger return on our investment if we're paying $3.70 if we get that 10% growth rate. Okay, now I'm sure I've made some mistakes here, and I would love to hear your valuations and then your justifications for those. Now, when I think about how much market share this company could get, I think I get a little stuck on their total addressable market. I don't like the 25 billion number they currently say. I don't have a good answer here though. I guess going into spirits and other countries is all possible. So at 400 million in revenue currently, I guess I could see that being 4 billion in 10 years time. Doesn't seem silly. Add a better multiple on that, and I can see a path to a $5 to $10 billion valuation. So maybe that's a 20 to 50x return, which is amazing. Now, Nick Devlin, the CEO, is also the real deal. An honest guy, comes across thoughtful and rational, a really good CEO that I think is the right person for the role, and I think management gets a big tick. Okay, so at this stage, it looks really interesting, but I still have some issues. Is this really that good of a company? I mean, buying wine online and paying a membership fee just doesn't feel like a big win for the consumer. Yeah, I save a few bucks per bottle of wine, but I can just grab a bottle of wine at the corner store whenever I want anyway. And I'm definitely not the target market. You have to drink a lot of wine to be part of Naked Wines, I think, and this is no Costco. Costco charges a membership fee for groceries, and groceries are what everyone needs, but Naked Wines is far from a necessity. I don't really care enough to go online and shop for it. In my eyes, you can just go to the grocery store and pick this stuff up. Now, shipping is always going to be a nightmare. Bottles of wine are heavy and take up a lot of space. It just isn't an easy thing to ship. Not like ASOS, which can ship a dress that weighs nothing and is tiny and is not fragile. And then even better is a company that doesn't have any physical products at all, like Dropbox or something. Now, I've also talked to Daryl Rawlings, the chairman of Naked Wines, and I think I knew more about the company than he did. Daryl, in complete fairness, is a figurehead of Naked Wines and he's the CEO of Trupanion, so a different company. He essentially acts as a mentor to Nick Devlin at Naked Wines as needed. I would have thought the chairman of a company would be really passionate about the business, but it turns out the chairman of the board doesn't need to really do anything. So unfortunately, I got no extra information from Daryl. Now, I also think the company is just reliant on ad spend. The business needs to advertise. That's fine and normal for a lot of businesses. But I think some of the greatest businesses don't spend much on customer acquisition. And this is a very competitive game to play. But as you saw from my valuations, it's quite compelling, assuming they continue to grow even just a little bit. It falls apart very quickly though if they start losing these active angels. And at the end of the day, I think they are always going to have to push hard to get new customers. I don't know where their ceiling is, so I'm not confident this is a long-term compounder. Even after doing a lot of work on this idea, I think I might just have to let this one pass by. I'm still not quite sure. I hope it does prove me wrong because I will learn a lot from just following this company. And look, I have friends invested in this one, so I want them to do really well. The question is, do I have something that I'm more confident about, another investment? And the answer is yes, but I'll save that reveal for another time. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts today on Naked Wines. Feel free to criticize me as much as you like. I can take it. Actually, I learned a lot from the criticism, so go for it. A big thank you for getting to the end of the video, and I will see you next time.